Alright, so we are back with yet another Pauper deck tech. Today we are looking at a Rakdos Sacrifice deck using this new card from Streets of New Capenna, Body Dropper. So when Body Dropper first got spoiled, some people were talking about whether this would make black-red Sacrifice decks better or viable. Thus far, mono-black Sacrifice decks and Golgari Sacrifice decks have done pretty well. But now in the latest Legacy League, one player managed to go 5-0 with his red-black take on the Sacrifice archetype. So Body Dropper is 2 mana for a 2/2, 1 black, 1 red. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Body Dropper. Then it also has an activated ability, pay 1 black and 1 red, sacrifice another creature, Body Dropper gains Menace until end of turn. So that Menace is pretty cool for some evasion, and the fact that this can be a sack outlet for itself is very useful. In terms of other new cards from New Capenna, this deck is running 2 copies of the red-black dual land Tramway Station. So it enters tapped, it taps for 1 black or 1 red, and it also says pay 4 mana, tap, sacrifice Tramway Station, draw a card. I'm quite keen to try these cards out more. It seems like they could be pretty decent in decks that try to be quite grindy and where you can expect to have long games where you'll often end up with 5 lands or more. Okay, the rest of the deck is not too crazy. It's mostly running the key cards that we've seen in other Sacrifice decks, like Carrion Feeder, 1 black for a 1/1, it can't block, and it has sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. Anyone who's played against the Sacrifice decks knows how big these creatures can get so quickly and become a major threat. That's a problem to deal with. Okay, backing it up, we have this other 1-drop, Mortician Beetle, 1 black for a 1/1. Whenever a player sacrifices a creature, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Mortician Beetle. So just a payoff for all our sacrifice effects, essentially a 1-mana version of Body Dropper. Then next up, we have this 1-drop from Modern Horizons 2, which I've found to be incredibly strong. It's Nested Shambler, 1 black for a 1/1. It says when it dies, create X tapped 1/1 green squirrel tokens, where X is Nested Shambler's power. So in this list, we don't really have ways of pumping its power, but that's fine. Even just as 1 for a 1/1 that generates another 1/1 when it dies is super good in these sacrifice-based strategies. A way of creating more fodder for us to sack is this card, Mog War Marshal. 2 mana for a 1/1. It says when it enters the battlefield or dies, create a 1/1 red goblin token, and then it has Echo, so at the beginning of your upkeep you have to pay 2 mana or sacrifice this. So whether we keep this on the board or sack it or just refuse to pay the Echo cost, it still generates stuff that we can sacrifice on a decent rate. Okay, and then this is another card which gives us some value when we sacrifice it. It's Perilous Myrrh, 2 mana for a 1/1. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to any target, so that can be pretty useful. Then, of course, we are using Deadly Dispute, one of the best commons to come out in the last year or so. So it's 2 mana for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Deadly Dispute, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw 2 cards, and create a treasure token. Very, very powerful card. And it's worth noting that we do play a few artifact lands, which we can also sacrifice to Deadly Dispute. We've got 4 Drossforge Bridge, 1 Vault of Whispers, 1 Great Furnace. Okay, next up, in terms of other spicy cards, which have always seemed decent but never really seen much play, it's Begarden Dragonheart from Modern Horizons. So it's 3 mana for a 2/2. It says sacrifice another creature. Until end of turn, Begarden Dragonheart becomes a dragon with base power and toughness 4/4, flying, and haste. So this is a free sacrifice outlet, but it turns into a 4/4 body with flying, which is pretty powerful, and the fact that it can get haste too is also pretty useful. So yeah, I like this inclusion. Then for some removal, we're playing Lightning Bolt to reanimate some of our sacrifice creatures, in particular the ones that give us value when they die is Unearth. So of course it's 1 black for a sorcery, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it has cycling for 2. And then finally, one of the other very strong sacrifice spells is Village Rites. 1 black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. So there you have it, a pretty cool Rakdos take on sacrifice, making use of some new Capenna cards. I encourage you to take the deck for a spin and let me know how it goes. If you have ideas for other decks that can be made using cards from New Capenna, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.